The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee wants former Duterte advisor Michael Yang to be placed under the immigration watch list. This after he skipped yet another hearing yesterday, which was part of the Senate probe into the alleged mishandling of pandemic funds. Camille Samonte with the details.
President Duterte's former economic advisor Michael Yang was a no-show at Monday's hearing of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. According to his lawyer, Yang was advised by his doctor to rest for 5 days for elevated hypertension. The excuse, however, did not sit well with the senators.
Does this mean, Mr. Chairman, that we will be able to directly question Mr. Yang after 5 days? Medyo nasa gitna po siya ng cast of characters nito, Mr. Chairman, and inaasahan, I'm sure nating lahat, that he can help us connect the dots because he seems to be a very important dot right in the middle of this issue, Mr. Chairman.
The doctor merely said that he should go on 5 days bed rest. But if the Honorable Blue Ribbon Committee would set a hearing within the 5-day period, then I will instruct Mr. Yang, if he is well enough, to, of course, to appear because he has been very cooperative during this entire time and would be willing to answer the questions of the Honorable Commission.
Following these, the Blue Ribbon Committee has recommended to place Yang under the Bureau of Immigration's watch list order. Meanwhile, Senator Manny Pacquiao criticized the inconsistent statements of former officials of DBM and Pharmally.
May corruption ba sa ating gobyerno? Wala. Bakit nahihirapan sagutin o paiba-iba yung mga sagot ng mga katanungan namin?
All of those are different perspectives based on their own office. So hindi po namin kaya sagutin. Kung if people think na may inconsistency, wala po kami magawa. But in our office, we are open naman. We are just people and we get emotional sometimes, diba? And we want to help, but when there is insinuations din about our purpose, masakit din po kasi lahat ay nasasaktan because we understand the Senate is very cautious on how the funds are spent.
Doon lang kami nagtataka dahil kung talagang legal yan at kung maayos ang pag-transact ng pag-purchase, pag-procure ng mga PPEs na yan, lahat ng mga ginagamit sa pandemya na ito, madaling sagutin, di ba? Ganun yung ano namin. Ang inahanap natin dito, yung katotohanan para maipaliwanag natin sa taong bayan yung kung may talagang korupsyon, parusahan, yung wala namang korupsyon, ipaliwanag ng gusto.
The Senate Committee will continue its investigation on Friday. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
You're still watching One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. President Duterte says cabinet members must first seek his clearance before attending any Congress hearing. During his latest talk to the People address, Duterte explained that he will forbid his cabinet from accepting Congress invites if they will only be harassed or berated. Duterte claims he has the power to do this, especially if there's a clear abuse of power from the Senate.
I can do it as president. Clearly, if there is an abuse of authority there, or exceeding the authority of the reasonable time that Congress conducts a hearing, I will limit you to what you can do with the executive department of the government. Dito sa executive department, I am the head. So I would say, kung gusto ko, at nakita kong reasonable, go. Especially if it is really pursuant to the truth na hinahanap ninyo.
The chief executive also once again singled out Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Dick Gordon for supposedly conducting their probe for too long.
I will campaign against you for being unfit to be a senator of this republic. Others are trying to be a Chinese when they are not. And ikaw naman, you are trying to be an American na hindi ka naman talaga totoong Amerikano. Every time that there is a committee hearing, you subpoena more than 100 resource persons and witnesses. And then more than half of that number comes from the government. Instead of working, they are stuck attending hearings that last for more than 5 hours. Tama ba yung ginagawa ninyo? I mean, are you crazy?
The Interior Department confirms that the national government is giving additional privileges to fully vaccinated residents of Metro Manila. In an interview with Radio 5, Interior Undersecretary Ipimaco Dinsing admitted that among these privileges are allowing up to 10% capacity in venues, personal care services, and churches. Also, Dinsing said that this does not mean that there are now vaccine bubbles in NCR.
Ngayon nga po ang feedback on the ground is ang mga nagpapabakuna na lang ngayon ay mga second dose na. Konting-konti lang first dose. So saktong-sakto ang pilot ng Metro Manila para sa mga tinatawag nating vaccine bubble. Pero hindi vaccine bubble, ito pa sa privilege lang. Ang debate kasi dyan, wag payagan o hindi payagan kasi ang pananaw pa rin ng ating mga health experts, carrier pa rin ang
mga vaccinated na.
Vaccinated. So, siguro ito yung nakita nating middle ground, no? Pasimulan muna sa Metro Manila at 10% level. Okay. Alert level 4.
In other news, Philippine General Hospital still has hundreds of COVID-19 patients waiting to be admitted, even if it's already full. Experts are hoping that the upcoming granular lockdowns will somehow soften the blow on the healthcare system. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us the front seat to the story.
The current COVID surge is overwhelming hospitals, especially in Metro Manila. Of the 16 DOH hospitals in NCR, 8 or half are already at critical levels, meaning they are 85% or more occupied. 2 are already past full capacity, and 3 are at 70% or high-risk capacity, but officials admit that the situation on the ground may be worse than the numbers on the board. Dr. Bernadette Velasco, operations manager of the One Hospital Command Center, said the calls they receive increased by 500% this September compared to the start of the year.
Sometimes we really can't see any hospital po, no, para dun sa patient, that a hospital that can accept the patient.
Half of the severe and critical cases they receive do not get a hospital bed immediately. These patients have to wait several days to even a week.
We monitor the patient and endorse the patient. If nasa bahay siya, we endorse the patient to the BHERT or Barangay Health Emergency Response Teams.
Since Thursday last week, occupancy rates in intensive care units or ICUs have been on a steady rise. In the National Capital Region, ICUs are already at 78% occupancy. Dr. Velasco admits that some patients have died at home before they could even get into a hospital. The Philippine General Hospital, the country's biggest COVID-19 referral hospital, is already beyond 100% capacity, yet they still have more than 200 patients in their wait list. This week, the country shifts to a new system of granular or targeted lockdowns. Health officials are pinning their hopes that the granular lockdowns would help ease the growing pressure on the healthcare system. I'm Jacob Lazaro and we are One News.
The government is eyeing to do away with priority groups and start vaccinations for the country's general adult population by October. During his talk to the people that aired this morning, President said that the government is now studying the possibility of starting inoculations for all adult Filipinos, regardless of their priority group. Duterte says this will start once the supply of vaccine stabilizes.
Studying the possibility of vaccinating the general adult population as early as October if there is a stable vaccine supply. Unahin na natin ang walang-wala ang mga mahirap.
Here's a quick look at some of today's headlines. The government has released the guidelines for granular lockdowns and alert level systems to be implemented starting tomorrow. 100 public schools and 20 private schools are set to take part in the pilot test of limited face-to-face classes. And Olivia Rodrigo, Justin Bieber, and BTS are among the big winners in this year's MTV VMAs. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us again later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.